This chapter talks about groups or social groups. The most familiar types of groups for most people are probably functional groups. For example, your work teams, these are social groups. How do we become good team players or bad team players? How do we improve our teamwork? These are the topics of this chapter. Social groups are a set of individuals. These individuals have some commonality. Usually they have similar characteristics, and usually they have a strong identity, and they identify with the group. Some groups have a stronger entitativity. Entitativity refers to something like a groupiness. Some groups are more like groups. Some groups are less like groups. And higher levels of entitativity usually have these characteristics: similarity. Those groups that have a strong group characteristics, the members usually are similar. And usually they have interdependence. Functional groups are particularly strong in interdependence. So when you're doing a group project for your coursework, you are interdependent with the other group members. And also, many groups have a particular structure. For example, the group members have different roles. There's usually a group leader, and different group members serve different functions. Even in a study group, for example, you're doing a group project, group presentation for your psychology course, this kind of a temporary groups also have basic structures. Usually, there's a leader or facilitator. And the leader will kind of guide people together, get group members together to meet, propose agendas, propose meetings. Also, there might be a person who takes notes. In other words, there is a division of labor among the group members. This constitutes a group structure. And usually the group have some norms. The norms may develop slowly over the course of group work. For example, some groups have a norm to be polite, to be respectful for, and well, to watch out the kind of language you use when you talk to each other. But some other groups are more open in using in the way they talk, and less careful in choosing their words. Some groups even use swear words. And those are different norms for groups. Groups are related with a person's identity. Usually, people care about their group membership, and their group membership serve as a big part of their identity. A sense of identity is the most important feature of a group. Some groups, their members don't have a whole lot of similarity or interdependence. They don't even communicate that much with each other, but they have a strong group identity. For example, political identity, political orientation. Some people, they identify themselves as liberals. Some of them identify themselves as conservatives. If I'm a conservative, I may not even talk that much with other conservatives. I might not have a whole lot of similarity with other conservatives in terms of occupation, in terms of like hobbies, family structures. The only similarity I have with other conservatives maybe is a political leaning or political beliefs, but I have a strong identity, a strong sense of identity with this group. I'm a conservative, and this identity will become stronger during the election periods. Identity is the most important feature of a group. Groups usually have a life cycle. A group may exist for a long time, or it may exist for a brief period of time. For example, you might have a study group or an assignment group for your coursework. For example, you might be doing a group presentation project. This group may last for a short period of time, within the time frame of a term. Once your assignment is done, the group is over. The textbook talks about a model of group development. And this model specifies several stages of group development. There's the forming stage, group formation. For example, if you are doing a group project, group presentation project, you may form a group. You may find like a 3 group teammates to form a group. And that's a formation stage. After the group gets formed, there is the storming stage. The storming stage is that, well, after the group is formed, after a team is formed, the team members start talking to each other, start communicating each other. They may agree and they may disagree. So they have to solve the disagreements, and they have to come into a consensus. For example, they have to come into a consensus about how many times you meet each week, what's the frequency of the meeting, and do you meet online, face to face, and also the communication style. What is the communication style you are comfortable with? You have to bring these issues to the group and work out these issues with your teammates. That's a storming stage. You are kind of getting to know each other, and it's a storming stage because there might be conflicts, there might be disagreements. And then after the storming stage is over, if the group still continues, if you don't hate each other so much that you break up, if you continue to work together, and then there's a norming stage. The norming stage is a consensus building stage. You start to kind of come to agreement about the norms. What is the communication styles? Do we use polite language? And how often do we meet? What are the expectations about the quality of the work? Is everybody comfortable with working at a high quality level? You develop a norm. And then after that, you get to the performing stage. The performing stage is when you get your work done. You get a lot of work done. And then after that, usually the group comes to an ending. That's adjourning stage. The function it has served is outdated. Now you're ready to break up. You're ready to say goodbye to your teammates. I have an example about a group development example. This example is a presentation project for psychology, for introductory psychology course. And here, look at this scenario. Joe worked on the presentation as part of a 3-member team. So Joe started a group that was a forming stage. He voluntarily teamed up with another 2 persons, while 2 students in the class. They decided to form a group that is a formation group. And then the storming stage didn't wind up very smoothly. One of his teammates made a slide for the team, and that teammate committed plagiarism by copying and pasting materials from the internet. So in the storming stage, the group members really need to work with each other, need to get to know each other, to know about expectations. And is it okay for you to copy and paste materials from the internet? Apparently, well, one of the teammates, the guy or the girl who was making the slides, he or she felt okay with that, but Joe might not agree with that. In the storming stage, this issue should be worked out, and you should form a norm. In the norming stage, there should be a consensus about expectations for academic integrity, the quality of the work, etc. But they don't have that. So Joe did not check the slides and had his name listed as one of the co-presenters, co-authors. Joe was held responsible for the plagiarism since the co-presenters, co-authors take collective responsibilities for the presentation. And this group is really dysfunctional. The seeds for the dysfunction were sowed in the storming stage. They didn't have a proper storming stage. They probably didn't communicate with each other a lot after they agreed to work with each other. And then they didn't have a proper norming stage to really come to a consensus about the norms of the group, about expectations. And in the performing stage, of course, if you don't have a good storming norming stage, the performing stage is going to be dysfunctional. They got the work done, but the performance was not really well. In the adjourning stage, well, there was a bad blood between the group members because they didn't get an ideal quality of the work done. Another scenario about a dysfunctional group work. Joe had decided to work with another 2 students on a presentation project. Well, that was a forming stage. They voluntarily decided to work together as a team. He only got to know his teammates casually during class. They were not really familiar with each other. When the due date drew close, Joe completed all his part. He was diligent, he was conscientious, he did his part of work. However, his teammates were not doing their parts and not responding to his repeated emails and messages. Joe found himself doing all the work for the group. Joe felt he was held hostage by his teammates. If he did not do all the work, his grades would suffer too. If he did all the work, it would be unfair for his non-performing teammates to get free ride. To make things worse, Joe is a nice person and he hates to have confrontations with anybody in any shape or form. You see, Joey's his personality, he's afraid of conflicts. He's aversive to conflicts. So the storming stage was not thorough. He didn't let the other groups know about his expectations. He has expectations to get work done on time, properly, but his teammates have different expectations. They didn't have a proper storming stage to really understand each other. And then they didn't have a norming stage to come to a consensus about how they are going to work together. They didn't have a proper norm. So Joey would love to have a norm that get your work done in time. Don't procrastinate and get all your work. If you tell me that you're going to get your part of done before the weekend, you need to deliver that. Joey, he was able to deliver that, but that didn't become a group norm, didn't become a shared norm. And in the performing stage, well, that was a disaster. Joey did his part, but his teammates were not delivering their products. A drawing stage, when the group ended, there might be some bad feelings between the group members. And of course, the quality of work would be impaired. Most groups would follow these stages in group development. Working with other people could make you work better or could make you work worse. There is a social facilitation and social inhibition effect. Some people like to do things together with other people. If you're going to exercise in the gym, do you want to go with your friends or do you want to go by yourself? People have different preferences. Social facilitation is the situation where a person does work faster or better when together with other people. Social inhibition is the other way around. Some people, they do worse when there are other people around. Zhejiang, he did a really unusual study to show social facilitation and social inhibition, not only with humans, but with insects. They used cockroaches as the study subjects. And they divided the insects into two groups. One group, they run in the street pipe by themselves. They run alone. They run toward food or the smell of food. You need a way to drive the insects to run as fast as possible. That's one group. Another group, they had an audience. They run in the pipeline and there are other insects watching them from outside the pipeline. They found that when the insects were running in a straight line, they run faster when they have company. They run faster when they have other insects watching them. That was social facilitation. But when the researchers made the task more difficult, they have to make complex turns. The insects run faster when they were alone, when there was no audience. So when the task get complex, get difficult, there is social inhibition. And the explanation offered by Zhang was arousal. When there are other people around you, your arousal increases. And when your arousal increases, you find it easier to perform the dominant response. When you have a very simple task, like running a straight line, the dominant response is good, it's correct, you just run. And in this kind of situations, you have process gain. Other people provide you a stimulation and you run faster when there are other people around, when you have an audience. And earlier research found the same effect. Researchers asked people to pedal on a bicycle. Pedal on the bicycle is relatively easy. You just pedal and pedal. And when there are other people around doing the same things or just watching you, you do better, you pedal faster. This is a social facilitation effect. But when you're doing a more difficult task, you have to inhibit the dominant response. Like the cockroaches, when they are running in a maze, it's very complex. The dominant response will be running straight, and that is incorrect. You have to hold back from the dominant response, and then there's a process loss while other people are around. Arousal is bad for complex tasks when the dominant response is incorrect. This theory is compatible with research on arousal. When you have an easy task, high arousal would help. High arousal gave you a lot of raw energy. You complete the dominant response more forcefully. But when the task gets really complex, high arousal will harm your performance. So easy tasks like running, or lifting weights, repetitive dominant response, it benefits from arousal. But a difficult task, example, difficult task would be gymnastics. You do a complex gymnastic routine, tumbling, and all those acrobatic moves. You need to be calm. You need to be focused. You don't want to be anxious and high arousal. That would harm performance. And the presence of other people increase arousal. This is interesting study about social facilitation versus a social inhibition. This study was done by Marcus, 1978. That was a long time ago. The researchers asked the subjects to do an easy task or difficult task. And sometimes they do it alone. Sometimes they have an audience and the audience is watching them. Not only just being there, but watching them. And in the third condition, there's audience, but they're inattentive. They are not paying attention to the subjects. For the easy tasks, there seems to be a social facilitation. The dependent variable is how fast you complete the task. The shorter the time in seconds, the shorter the time, the faster your performance. The easy task is tie your shoes. How many seconds does it take for you to tie your shoes? That's easy. While you're doing it alone, you're a little bit smaller than when there's other people around. And the difference is not too much, but there's a difference. So when you have an attentive audience, you do that faster, you tie your shoes faster than you are by yourself. And when you have inattentive audience, you're also faster. So whenever you have an audience, you're faster than when you are doing it by yourself. This is a social facilitation. The difference between attentive audience and inattentive audience, it doesn't seem to be significant. They're both faster than the alone condition. But with a difficult task, they gave the subject was asking them to tie a knot behind their back. They have to put on a lab jacket, a lab suit, and tie a knot behind their back is more difficult. They've never done that. In this case, they have a social inhibition. When they have an audience, attentive audience, inattentive audience, they are slower. Maybe they get distracted. And they are slower, it takes longer time for them to complete the task than when they were by themselves. This is nice, a 2x2, 3 factorial design. 2 independent variables. 1 independent variable is the task difficulty, easy versus difficult. Another independent variable is performance condition. Performing alone, performing with attentive audience, and performing with inattentive audience. The dependent variable is speed of completing the task, measured in seconds. Group work can be good or bad. Working with groups can produce a process gain or process loss. A process gain is the gain compared with working alone. And process loss is the detriment or the loss or the cost compared with working all by yourself. When we measure people's actual productivity, we can first take the potential productivity and deduct from it process loss and add process gain, and then you have the actual productivity. The textbook talks about the different types of tasks and how you measure a group's performance. One distinction is divisible versus unitary tasks. Unitary task is indivisible. For example, if you are trying to move a piano, one piece of furniture from your apartment, from your old apartment to your new apartment, that task is not divisible, it's unitary. Some tasks are divisible. For example, in the example about Joey, he was in a group and they were doing a presentation. This presentation task is divisible. One part of it is making the slides. Another part may be doing the presentation, record the presentation. And then maybe another part of the task, the total task is finding the materials, doing the literature review. So some tasks are divisible, some tasks are unitary. Some group tasks are additive, some group tasks are averaging. Additive tasks are that all the input of all group members have to be added together. The presentation project is additive task. Compensatory task is also called averaging task. Averaging task that you take an average of the group input. And one example the book gave is forecasting, economic forecasting provided by economists. Maybe you take a group of economists, each of them give their own opinion, give their own forecasting, and then the average of the forecasting, the result of the brainstorming session might be the result of the consensus prediction.